Hey NHS, Mr. Ward here. Welcome to the Newmarket High School University information presentation for the fall of 2021 and for the graduating class of June 2022. Like I said at the top, I am Mr. Ward and I'll be taking you through this presentation. We'll take a look at a bit about why you might choose university, choosing a program itself, selecting a university, after once you've figured out an appropriate program, the application process, some supplemental application information, some important dates, and then some imparting thoughts at the end. Now, what I will say is this presentation is a lot of information. So if you are watching this in class or if you're watching it at home with your parents, I would suggest writing down some notes if you have other specific questions, and then going on to Teach Assist and then booking an appointment with your Alpha guidance counselor so they can go over those specific questions with you a little further. A lot of the slides will have a lot of information as well, purely because of the fact we do upload this presentation onto the Newmarket High School website as an information piece so that everybody can access. So you can access it as a PDF. Or there'll also be a link again to this YouTube presentation on the Newmarket High School website underneath the guidance tab. So with that being said, why might you choose to go to university? So some of you might already have a specific career goal in mind, or a job or a field that you know will require a university education or degree programming or degree education at a post-secondary institution. Now, if you don't know exactly what that might be at this point, that is fine. Some of you might just have a passion for academic learning, abstract concepts, theoretical learning. And that's something that you wanted to use or move on into post-secondary education with and continue your learning. You're able to complete a majority of your work independently, and you also have a 70 to 75% minimum average in 6 U or M level courses, including prerequisites. And I'll touch upon that point a little bit later in the presentation, but it is an important piece to know. On the right hand side here, we have university terminology. So at the top you have faculty. So an umbrella term for a department of learning. So for example, a faculty of arts, science, applied science and engineering. And then within that faculty itself, you will have specific areas of study which are called programs. So usually programs are a set of prescribed courses that one would have to take that will lead to a degree. So for example, on here we have mechanical engineering. If you decided to go into mechanical engineering at a university, you would have to take a certain number of courses in first year, second year, third year, fourth year in order to achieve your mechanical engineering degree. Next thing I'd like to take a look at are types of degrees. So as a student is graduating next June and moving on to a university education next fall, you'll be considered what is called an undergraduate student. And undergraduate students work towards what is called a bachelor degree. Now, I have seen some bachelor degrees that are 3 years, but for the most part, you're looking at around 4 years to complete that bachelor degree. On the right-hand side here, we have a few examples of bachelor degrees. So if you're interested in some of the following subject areas, such as humanities, so English, languages, philosophy, social sciences, so geography, psychology, sociology, you'll be specializing in those areas, but at the end of those 4 years, the degree that you'll have is a Bachelor of Arts. And the same thing goes for a Bachelor of Science and a Bachelor of Fine Arts. So if you're looking at one of those subject areas there, your degree at the end of those 4 years will be the Bachelor of Science or the Bachelor of Fine Arts. On the left-hand side here, in the yellow, we have what are called professional degrees. So a package of more or less prescribed courses with some room for specialization within that subject area. So for example, a Bachelor of Commerce in Business. In your first and second years of a Bachelor of Commerce, you'll take some general business courses. And then once you get into third year and fourth year, that's when you start to specialize in a certain area. So for example, finance or marketing or accounting. And that's how these professional degrees work. Another few more examples of professional degrees would be Bachelor of Engineering or a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. Now you might be sitting there and saying, well, Mr. Ward, what if I want to become a dentist or a lawyer, doctor or a teacher? Those are also considered professional degrees, but in those cases you might have to earn an additional bachelor degree on top of your undergrad. You also may be required to write an LSAT if you're a lawyer, or an MCAT if you're a doctor. What I will say is make sure you are researching your profession of interest for those specific details now, because as you move into your university education, that undergrad degree might depend, or that wherever you're going with that professional degree might depend on that undergrad degree as well. So definitely you need to start looking at and researching those specific details now. You also have what are called graduate degrees. So once you have completed your bachelor degree, you can also now work towards, if you'd like, a master's degree in your field of study. So we have a few examples on the side here. So once I've completed that bachelor degree, I could jump into a Master of Arts degree, or a Master of Engineering, a Master of Science, a Master of Education. You also have the bottom there, PhD, or a doctorate. So a master's degree typically takes 2 years. If you're looking to become a doctor in a certain field, a PhD, that can take an additional 5 to 7 years. So like I mentioned at the end of the previous slide, where you might need to start, if you're looking for some of those professional degrees, such as a doctor, you need to start thinking of some of those specific details now, because your education could last some time, right? So you need to plan ahead and plan out that post-grad degree. So now that we've covered the types of degrees and a bit of university terminology, I want to move on to choosing a program itself. Now, as I mentioned previously on a couple slides back, some of you might already have an exact career or an exact program or an exact subject area in mind, and you know that's where you're going. Now, some of you also might not, and that's fine, and you're starting that research process now. So we will say, start thinking about your skills and interests, right? What would interest you in doing as a career, right? What kind of lifestyle do you desire, or what are your long-term goals, right? And that's a good starting point to actually take a look at what possible career that you'd be interested in. Another good resource would be the Ontario University's Info website, where you can browse universities and programs. This is the landing page for the Ontario University's Info.ca website. And there's a few things I just want to highlight on this main landing page. Is at the top you have a few things. You have programs, universities, you have a bit of finance, so scholarships and fees, and what you need to know about applications. And I've highlighted here programs. So I'm going to briefly walk through here how to search for a program on the Ontario University's Info.ca website. So I've clicked on programs in the top header, and then I'll get a website or a page that looks like this. And on the right hand side I have some search options. So where it says find a program, I can type in a certain keyword, and so for this example here I have typed in economics, and economics here gives me 140 programs or 140 results here that I can browse through, and on the Ontario University Info website they will be browsed through by alpha, so A to Z. And so I'm just going to select this top one here, so accounting, 4 years, French immersion is available at the University of Ottawa. I have clicked on that accounting program, and I want to start on the left-hand side here. There's a little bit of a program summary and overview. In the program summary, it'll give me a bit of information. So what university the program's at, the degree that I'll be getting. So this one is a Bachelor of Commerce. So notice that the program that I I clicked on was for accounting, but the degree that I'm getting here is a Bachelor of Commerce. So like we talked about on our degree slides, in a Bachelor of Commerce, I'll start specializing in that accounting degree in 3rd and 4th year. I have OUAC program code. So there's a three-letter code there that you'll use when applying. So we'll talk about applying later in the presentation, but that program code can be used to just input into your application, and then it'll populate this exact program into your application itself. It'll give me a grade range. So this one's saying is low 80s. There's a co-op option available. It'll also give me sometimes, so this one says open enrollment, but there also could be an exact number of how many students are let into the program each year. And at the bottom there, you also have 2 options. So you have university website and program website. But I want to click on at the top, I've highlighted in purple, requirements. So you see overview, requirements, admission, and contact. If I click on requirements, on the right-hand side of the slide here, it's showing me the prerequisites for that program. So for this specific program, I need my grade 12 English. I need grade 12 functions, MHF 4U, and then grade 12 calculus and vectors, MCV 4U. So I need at least those 3 courses, along with another 3 or my top 3 U or M level courses to complete my 6 U or M level courses. So there's a lot of information here, mainly on this website itself, the Ontario University's info website. It gives me that overview, it gives me those requirements. But also, if that's not enough information for me and I need more, I can also have highlighted here, click on the program website. After clicking on the program website link at the Ontario University's info website, it links me directly to that specific program at the University of Ottawa. So here it's showing accounting under the Bachelor of Commerce program. And it's just going to give me some more specific information. We do always say, although the Ontario University's info website is fantastic in terms of information, requirements, specific details, the specific universities themselves will have the most up-to-date information. They do talk to Ontario University's info, and then it's updated quite regularly. But if you're unsure of something, I would definitely contact the university themselves to ask questions, to confirm, because that's where the most up-to-date information will be. Once you've chosen a program and you've gone through the Ontario University's info website and you've taken a look at a few programs at different schools, now is the time where you need to start now looking at selecting a university itself. And there are many things that go into selecting university here. There's location and size, campus, scholarship opportunities, the program itself, like we talked about, commuting, or do I stay at residence, career preparation, student services. All these should be factored into your decision in terms of selecting a university itself. The first thing you want to look at is, does the university itself offer the academic program that I'm looking for? Do they offer what I want to study? Do I have the proper prerequisites for this program? In some cases, you might have certain programs at certain schools defer in some sense of prerequisites. So one school might have 2 math, another school might have 1 math. So you definitely have to take a look at do you have the prerequisites for that program at that university itself, even though it might be the same program. Last thing too there is, do I want to continue with graduate studies? So we talked about undergraduate studies and graduate studies is part of the plan to stay at that university for my graduate degree, right? So those academic programs are really, really important. Another thing to consider is co-op and career preparation. Can I gain experience and get paid? Are there internship opportunities? Maybe perhaps does the school have employment services for students? Co-op can be a fantastic option in terms of a program at a university or programming at a university. You jump into a co-op, you're getting paid for the job that you're doing. You're meeting new people, you're meeting employers, you're meeting reference, or you're gaining and building a reputation for yourself. And now once you come out of that co-op program, you already may have some references versus a student that may not have done that co-op program. So co-op opportunities should definitely be considered in part of your university selection. Another two factors that you should be considering when selecting a university are location and size, and visiting the campus. And I'll start with location and size, and factoring in larger cities versus smaller communities. Do I want to spend my 4 years in a small close community or a larger center, or do I want to go to a large university with a large campus and maybe mix with that? Maybe I want to be in a smaller community with that large university. Or do I want to be at a small campus and perhaps get to know my professors really well, get to know my fellow peers in the program really well? And it all really comes down to visiting the campus itself. And I know and I understand during COVID-19 and these past 18 months of the pandemic that it has been very difficult in some cases to visit a campus. And most schools have not had those open houses that they had in the past. They've been mostly virtual or a virtual visit. But if you can, we still strongly recommend a campus visit just to get a feeling, what's going on in the city, what's going on in that community that the school is in, what's going on the campus, what are people doing, what is the look and feel the campus give you. That look and feel, that campus could be a confirmation that yes, I do want to go here. Or, in some cases, you could have chosen out a university from program and really liked what the university on paper. And then when you get there, it doesn't give you the feel that you want, right? And it's a no. So we do still strongly recommend that you do visit the campus for those reasons. But both of those, location and size, and visiting the campus, are two important factors in selecting a university. The next factor I want to look at when selecting university is commuting or residence. And this ties into our last slide a little bit on location and size. Do you want to live at home? Is there a university close enough that you can live at home and then commute to that university? Or do you want to live in residence? Would you like to get out of the GTA or even the Newmarket area and live in residence somewhere else? Now, the thing you have to factor into both of those is can I afford it? Or if you're commuting to a university close by, do you have to buy a car? Do I have to get maybe a bus pass or take the train? How much would that be versus possibly living in residence somewhere? Because that's also going to cost a bit of money wherever you're deciding to go. And the other one here is sports and recreation. So am I able to play varsity sports? Are you an athlete? Is the sport that you would like to play varsity sports at that university available? Does the university itself offer other recreation opportunities? So intramural sports, dance, yoga, etc. Will I be able to exercise? Does the university have facilities that I can access? So all these questions you might need to ask yourself as you're selecting university, because they can factor in to your decision. Lastly, we have student services. So does the university offer access to extra help? So do they have study skills workshops? In some cases, universities will have success coaching if you visit the academic or career advising office. And we do encourage you as you move on to a university education to access those resources at a university, so you can reach a guidance counselor, an academic advisor, our counterparts at a university, and talk with them through what career you'd like to go into, possibly how many credits maybe you need to major, or how many credits maybe you want to minor in. All that stuff can be accessed through student services. And then, is the university accessible? Right. Well, we'll talk a little bit later in the presentation about a slide about special education requirements or IEP accommodations. But is the university going to offer those academic accommodations? The main thing here on the right-hand side is here, the key is research, research, and research. It's critical that you research everything. We've mentioned a number of factors here, but this covers a few of those factors, right? Talk to parents, friends, teachers, family friends. You may have friends that are actually in university itself right now, and having that experience possibly at a university you're looking to go to. But don't rely on that information only. So with that information you can use to help you, but check that university's website, call for accurate information. At the end of the day, the only person responsible for your university application is you. University requirements. So acceptance to a degree programming at a university or even a college is based on 6 U or M level courses. And your prerequisite courses for that program would be included in those 6. And if you're not sure what I mean in terms of U or an M level course, you'll notice in the third point I have a couple of course codes, so ENG4U and MHF4U. Those are grade 12 English and grade 12 functions. You'll notice that the 5th digit is a U. So even if you look at your own timetable and take a look at the courses you're taking, look for that 5th digit and just make sure that you have 6 U or M level grade 12 courses. Each university will calculate averages differently. So yes, there might be a program that has you take certain prescribed courses or has prerequisites to get into the program, but they may just want to see that you've taken those courses and then calculate your best 6, including your English. So it was typically to say, contact the universities themselves and ask them how they calculate averages. They may release the information, they may not, but each university can calculate them a little bit differently. Conditional offers will state averages you must maintain. So if you receive an offer from a university, then within that offer it will contain an average that you must maintain for your 6 grade 12 U or M level courses to the end of the year. We will submit your final marks at the end of June, so you must maintain that average that they're asking or requiring you to be at. And it is very important to be at that cutoff average, or if you can, obviously, be even higher than that. I'd like to now move on to the university application process. And in November, the guidance department will also upload another presentation specifically on the university application process and how to apply through OUAC. So what I'm going to do here is just a kind of a brief overview of that application process, and there'll be more specific details in the coming months. If you have questions or specific questions coming out of this presentation, then you can always book an appointment with your guidance counselor. So the website you will apply through to an Ontario University is called OUAC, the Ontario Universities Application Center. And as a current high school student, I've highlighted here that you will be applying to that undergrad 101 application as a current high school student. In early October, the guidance department will submit some identifying information for all students in grade 12 using a secured transmission to both the Ontario University Application Center, so OUAC, and the Ontario College Application Service, or OCAS. So if you're also interested in applying to college, I'll do that through ontariocolleges.ca, and Miss Kalea will upload a presentation on how to do that as well. But the Ontario College Application Service is where we do submit that information. If you want to know a little bit more about what we do submit as information, you can always contact your guidance counselor. But some of that information will include all your final grades from completed grade 11 and 12 courses, and a list of your current year courses and programs. So going into semester 2, OUAC will be able to see what you are taking. Once we have submitted that information to OUAC, OUAC sends us back what is known as a personal identification number, or a PIN. And once we receive those PINs, usually typically in late October, we will send out an email to all students' GAPS accounts stating your school number, your student number, and that PIN which will help you now go ahead and apply through that 101 application that we mentioned earlier. You'll have to make an account, and only make one account. And then as you create that account, you'll have to upload that PIN into it. And that just kind of marries both the accounts you created and the information that we sent to OUAC, so that OUAC knows that this is who you are. When you're actually going ahead to apply, we talked about those program codes earlier when we looked at the Ontario University's info website. You can write those program codes down and actually input them directly as you're picking and choosing the programs that you would like to apply to, and that just populates into your application. Again, you're going to apply online using that 101 application, and then prepare your online application and then pay online. The application will cost $150 for 3 choices, and that includes programs and or universities. You're limited to 3 programs at one university within that $150. If you're wanting to go past those 3 choices, it is $50 for each additional program choice. So for example, if you add 2 additional programs or universities, you must pay an additional $100 to the base application. If you decide that you've applied to a program, but then it's not necessarily what you were looking for anymore, you can withdraw a choice and then add another at the same institution or same university at no cost. If you decide to withdraw a choice from a university and then submit another choice from a separate university or a different institution, that will cost $50. Payments are non-refundable, and they can be made online using a credit card or a debit card. There is also internet bill payment services if that's what you want to do with that. But applications will not be processed until payment is received. We have had situations in the past where students have not completed the whole application or have paid it, assumed that just because they completed most of their application that it would be submitted, but the application itself is not processed until that payment is received. Supplemental applications. So some universities may also require a bit of information on top of your completed application. And some of that information will include an interview, possibly a resume, audition, so if you're part of the creative industries, reference letters, even if you're looking at arts, sometimes a portfolio. So there also may be non-refundable extra costs with some of these supplemental applications. If a university is asking to submit some more supplemental information, I want to start on the right-hand side where it says separate accounts. So university, once you complete your application through OUAC, you have submitted everything to OUAC. The email you used to create your account on OUAC, the university will email you and ask you now to create a separate account. So for example, if I have applied to Ryerson, Ryerson may now email me and say, now time to create a Ryerson account or a Ryerson student account. And through that student account is where a lot of that supplemental information will be submitted. So they'll contact you through there. They'll give you any deadlines that you have, so there's an interview date, possibly maybe an audition date, or when you have to submit your portfolio or resumes, or sometimes there's also a character essay or an essay on something you value. Just carefully read what they're asking, but you're all going to find that in that separate account that the university is asking you to make. And once you have made that account, just make sure you are reading everything carefully. Is it optional? You really should just submit it. Meet all those deadlines. Ask references well in advance if they would like to support you. It is just respectful on your part to, if you're looking for a reference, to ask them a couple weeks ahead of time to say, hey, I'm looking for a reference, need it in 2 weeks. Give the person also a deadline so that they know exactly when that reference needs to be handed in. But as long as you're giving them that time to complete it and complete it properly, then they can support you best. Create a professional email. So when you are creating your OUAC account, that is the email that these universities will go out and contact. So if you can create a new email or create a professional email, that would be much better than possibly even a GAPS account. So I know we've had students use their GAPS account in the past, organized everything in their GAPS account, portfolios, resumes, emails, and nice and organized. And then at the end of the year, once you've graduated from grade 12, that GAPS account got closed or was closed. So that student wasn't able to access all the information that they had accumulated. So create a personal email, but also make sure that it's professional to store all that information. And if you need transcripts, you must provide at least 2 days notice. So most of your information is submitted through OUAC by us through a secure transmission. But if you are needing transcripts for whatever reason, you must come down to guidance and provide guidance at least 2 days notice for those. So if you know ahead of time when you're going to need a transcript, come down as soon as possible and ask Ms. Presley at the front if we can get a transcript. Another question we receive quite a bit down here in guidance is can I move my IEP over to my university education? And the short answer to that is yes. The only thing is you as a student will need to self-identify. This university itself is not going to come to you and say, do you have an IEP? You have to reach out to their student services center or their university support center and say, I would like to carry my IEP over into my undergrad degree. Students that are going to do that, you have to have your most up-to-date IEP and psychological report. So here in October here, you should receive from our special education department here at Newmarket High a new IEP that your special education resource teacher will give you and talk you through on what accommodations you should be receiving. Keep that in some sort of transitional portfolio or an important documents file, and that way you have that going into a transition into university itself, and so that if the university is asking for those documents, you have them. There is also a possibility for a grant through OSAP, or the Ontario Student Assistance Program, to cover any technology or assisted equipment costs, or if like I mentioned earlier, you need a psychological report and you need it updated, those could cost a bit of money. So you can look for those grants offered through OSAP. You also might be sitting there and thinking, well, Mr. Ward, I'd like to apply to Ontario universities, but I'm really thinking about universities out of province. And if you're applying to universities out of province, they're not pooled like OUAC here in Ontario. You'll have to visit those individual university websites themselves and go through their admission process. They're going to be separate processes at each individual university. So that's where you're going to find those admission requirements, going to the individual universities themselves. Now, the nice thing, though, is some universities will still access your grades through OUAC. So we've got some examples there, such as Bishop's, UBC, Calgary, Concordia, Dalhousie, McGill, University of New Brunswick, Simon Fraser, Victoria. There's even, I believe, St. Mary's University out east. They will all use what is called an OUAC reference number. So once you have submitted your application through the Ontario Application Centre, it's almost like what you'll get is a receipt at the end. And that receipt or reference number is what you'll have to submit to one of these out-of-province schools so they can access your transcripts. In the past, you would actually have to come down to guidance, ask Ms. Presley at the front, hey, I need transcripts to be sent to Dalhousie, right? And then Ms. Presley would get those ready and send them directly to Dalhousie. Now some of these universities are accessing the information that we submit to OUAC, so you do not have to send those transcripts each time. So if you are applying to one of those universities, double check how marks are submitted, because you may just have to provide that OUAC reference number and then that's it. For out of country, so if you're looking to go to the United States, apply. You have to, again, very similar to out of province, apply directly to that university. And watch deadlines and requirements with that. If you're applying to a school, let's say in California, it may be completely different in terms of deadlines and requirements to a school, let's say on the East Coast. And typically you'll apply through what is known as the Common App. And if you are deciding to apply out of country, I would suggest booking an appointment with your guidance counselor to discuss your options. Again, I mentioned on a couple slides previously, transcripts require a minimum of 2 days notice. So if you are applying out of province and you still need transcripts, please give the guidance department 2 days ahead of notice. Finances and deferrals. So if your post-secondary education is going to require a bit of financing. And really, realistically, you should be discussing with your family at this point what your options in terms of finances are going forward for your university degree or education. There are entrance scholarships, and those are purely based on grades. There are other scholarships, and a great website to start would be scholarshipscanada.ca. They'll have numerous scholarships on there that you can filter out to yourself from maybe what your interests are. Maybe you're really good at community involvement. Maybe you are specifically interested in business. There might be some specific business scholarships out there, but there are quite a few scholarships on that website. Talk with your family if there has been possibly a registered education savings plan set up for yourself. Or maybe perhaps you're looking to OSAP, Ontario Student Assistance Program, to fund your education. The one thing I will say is that you should try to aim to reduce your debt load while in school. So whether that's a job, maybe you're working outside of the school, maybe there's a job on campus you can get and pick up and try to reduce that debt load. I know we talked previously when we were looking at our types of degrees. If you're looking beyond your undergraduate degree, in some cases you might be looking at 5 years past your undergrad degree. So now you're looking at 9 years of education. That's going to cost some money. So it's important to start establish communication with your family and start discussing this early on how you're going to finance that education. But include some sort of plan to also reduce that debt load while you're in school. Deferrals. Now, policies may vary from university versus university, but the deferral process has come up quite a bit in these past 18 months with the pandemic. We've seen quite a few deferrals from universities. We've asked questions on our seminars with some of these universities. They don't give us a whole lot of information when it comes to deferrals, and I think mainly because of the fact lately they've had so many requests for a deferral to defer my acceptance 1 year. If you are looking to do the same and defer it, you might have to reapply after your gap year and still pay all the fees even though you have that deferral. But if you're interested, you have to contact admission themselves at that university for more detailed information to see if it's even a possibility for you. So we have a couple of important dates here in front of us that I wanted to kind of touch upon. Starting here in November, on November 19th, OUAC, that's when our first transmission of your first semester midterm grades will go. So that's our first transmission of grades. December 6th is full disclosure of first semester marks. So full disclosure meaning prior to December 6th, if you would like to withdraw from a course, and if you are able to withdraw from a course, depending on your credit count, before December 6th, it will no longer be on your transcript, doesn't stay on your transcript. If you decide to come out of a course after full disclosure, that mark stays on your transcript, and a W for withdrawal goes into the credit column of your transcript. So that is a very important date if you are thinking about possibly maybe withdrawing from a course to keep in mind, December 6th. We move through the winter break into 2022, and January 13th is the deadline to complete your Ontario University application. You still can modify it after submission, but January 13th is that deadline, but you should be applying well ahead of time, ahead of January 13th. Try for at least a week or prior to. I know students will like to apply sometimes during that winter break, when you have a couple weeks without school and you have time to sit down with your family. It's a great time to apply. But January 13th is that deadline. So we do suggest getting that in well beyond that 13th date. February 10th, OUAC receives all final first semester grades. So after you've completed first semester, on February 10th, we will send another transmission to OUAC with those final grades. Moving into second semester now, on April 28th, OUAC receives second semester midterm grades. So we'll transmit your second semester midterm marks. May 27th is the last day you can expect a response from Ontario University. So if you are holding out for an offer from a university, you're still waiting and waiting, May 27th is the last day you can expect a response. So after that day, if you have not heard back from a university, if you haven't heard back from a university, I would definitely contact that university, because there could be one of three responses, right? There could be you've been accepted to the program, perhaps you've been deferred into another program, or you have not been accepted into that program, right? So if you have not heard from a university by that date, definitely contact them. June 1st is the earliest date a student may be required to respond to an offer. So let's say you have been holding offers, you've been waiting for that offer that or the main choice that you're looking to go to. June 1st is the earliest date that now the universities can go to you and say, we need you to respond, or let us know what your intentions are. That exact same date, June 1st, 2022, is also the full disclosure of second semester midterm marks. So like I mentioned it a little bit earlier, if you're going into second semester, if there's a course in second semester you'd like to withdraw from or need to withdraw from, you need to come out of that course by June 1st, or it does stay on your transcript. July 7th is OUAC receives all final second semester grades. So once second semester has completed, there will be a transmission from Newmarket High on July 7th with those final second semester grades. University visits, fairs, and an open house. Last year, it was very difficult for students to attend many university visits. Most of them were virtual or altogether canceled. So this year, they still are mostly virtual. The one big fair that is taking place is virtual itself, the Ontario University's Fair. And that will take place on Tuesday, October 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. So if you actually go on and search up the Ontario University's Fair, you can register for that. And then we also have some upcoming virtual open house dates for some universities. So Trent University is this coming weekend, or maybe this, or if you're just watching this last week or this next week, it was October 2nd. Lakehead University is October 16th, Ontario Tech, October 23rd. The University of Windsor is also October 23rd, but they are also in person and online. So these other ones are here I've been mentioning are virtual, but the University of Windsor has both. And then the University of Toronto, I know that's a popular destination for some of our Newmarket High School students, and I'll show some of that data later. But they have multiple dates coming up in October and November. So you can find this information as well on the Ontario University's info.ca website. On the main landing page, if you scroll down, there should be a link to fall events or event list, and you can find all these events listed, and you can search by date, or you can search by university for events. So if you're looking for a certain university, visit the Ontario University's info.ca website and take a look at some of those upcoming virtual open house dates. I am happy to announce that the university visits will be returning to NHS this year. They'll mostly be virtual visits during your lunch period from 10:45 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And a link will be emailed out prior to that visit, because in some cases you as a student will have to register with that Meet or that Zoom link. And I will have more universities to be scheduled. I'm still working on scheduling more. But at the moment, we have University of Waterloo on November 2nd, Carleton University on November 3rd. I received an email last night from the University of Windsor that's not on there for November 8th. Ontario Tech, November 12th. Huron at Western, it's an affiliate campus at Western University, is November 16th. And then the University of Ottawa at November 18th. Like I said, there will be more added as we go through. The most likely will take place in November. So just check your GAPS email for further information, or visit the university bulletin board outside the guidance office. So this is a really interesting slide. This is the first time we have included some OUAC application data into our university information presentation. And so this is looking back at last year, the 2021 NHS graduating class, and this is the number of university selections among that class. So like I said earlier, the University of Toronto being very popular with NHS. Last year we had 25 students select University of Toronto. And so if you're taking a look here at some of the universities on this list, if you're looking towards going to some of these universities in the coming year, you may see some familiar faces at these universities that you know from Newmarket High along the way. But it is very interesting to see the data and see where our students go, just to even keep in mind for yourself as you're going through the application process. Lastly, we just have some parting thoughts here on this final slide. And I want to start with just take responsibility for your further education. There has been a lot of information that I have covered here in this presentation. You can access family, friends, teachers, guidance counselors, but at the end of the day, it is realistically you who are making a lot of the decisions and choices for your future. So it's now time for you to start taking more responsibility. Create multiple plans. So within that application itself, what we'll say is create a plan A, plan B, and a plan C. So plan A, perhaps that's your number one choice. It's where you want to go. Maybe you don't quite have the marks that just yet to get into that program, but you're working towards those marks. And then plan B, maybe you have the marks, you know for sure you love the school, you would like to go to the school as well. And then plan C, perhaps the admission average is a little bit lower, so you know for sure you're going to get in, and you know it's a school that you'd like to go to, but it's not necessarily your plan A. So make sure you're building those plans into your application process. Apply early, at least a week before the deadline, to just give you some room if there is a problem or a hiccup with your application. Arrive on time for all interviews, auditions, portfolio presentations. It is very important to be professional and be on time for those interviews, because it does speak to who you are and speaks to what's your character. Think finances and get organized. It is time now to start thinking about how you'll fund that post-secondary education, not only for first year, but also in going off into the distance, second, third, fourth year, and maybe even looking at graduate studies. How am I going to fund my education? And get organized. So start organization now, right? Maybe it's in your emails, maybe it's just at home, even with your schoolwork itself, but it is now time to also start to get organized. And lastly, just make sure you are doing all your research. Research. It is very important to take a look at what universities you want to go to, and get a proper look at what you're doing, because it is very important. It is your future. So thank you for listening to this presentation. If you do have any questions, please feel free to book a guidance appointment with your guidance counselor, and we can talk a bit more about those specific questions that you might have. But have a great school year, and good luck.